Hello, and thank you everyone for joining us. Welcome to our Key Colors Spring Summer 2026 webinar, which will be diving into our 5 key colors and discussing how to implement them across the industries that we serve, from fashion to beauty to interiors and to tech. This webinar has 2 segments. We have a content presentation and a live Q&A. And I'll be joined by Mias Jacobs, Youth Strategist, and Gemma Roberti, our Director of Interiors. So do start thinking of your questions. Let's begin with showcasing our key colours for Spring Summer 26 and revealing the colour of the year for 2026. We'll start with electric fuchsia, which we chose because of its exhilarating and intoxicating effect, fueling a sense of escapism at a much needed time. We see electric fuchsia as the perfect evolution of Barbiecore's more sweeter pinks. It's a true neon, leaning more towards purple and bringing a meta qualities of previous colour of the years such as future dusk and digital lavender. We saw this colour used in consumer tech at our recent trip at Milan Design Week by Google's Making Sense of Colour exhibition, where the space was drenched in changing neon lights and sound frequencies to get visitors to embrace synesthesia. It asks questions such as, what does colour taste like? What does it smell like? And what does it feel like? And over the pond to New York, my colleague Emily spotted electric fuchsia at Photographica's latest exhibition, Human Nature, where neons were used to highlight the environmental emergency and signify preciousness, wonder, hope, and a call to love and protect our planet, confirming our 2026 Stepic driver, Eco Accountability. Electric fuchsia is a standout this season as it provokes, subverts, and thrills through a multi-sensory and psychedelic nature, offering a powerful escapism with its vibrant luminosity in a world in turmoil. But Mia, you've been to Coachella recently. How is electric fuchsia playing out in the youth market?
Yeah, so we definitely spotted this coming through really strong at Coachella, which was lovely to see. And I think this colour's almost kind of like neon psychedelic quality makes it perfect for all of our rave renaissance stories, which are really important for youth. And kind of the applications that I saw it coming in was very much aligned to this kind of like indie, like noughties club kid aesthetic. And people were pairing it back with kind of subversive darks and your like washed like greys and blacks as well, which was really exciting. We even saw it on people doing full shaved heads of like bright pink hair and more like experimental makeup looks as well. So it just shows how like kind of a diverse a color it is across all kind of categories. And then at the same time as well, I love that you mentioned that it's kind of like this move on for that Barbie pink. Because I think electric fuchsia has that really kind of like rebellious energy and spirit, and it aligns perfectly with this kind of evolving narrative around girlhood, which again is really important for youth. Um, we've been talking about the kind of complexities and the multi-layered realities of what it means to be a girl, and it's almost like this reclaiming of power. And I think electric fuchsia really embodies that kind of like progressive attitude. So in that sense, I think we see it come through really strongly in like apparel, footwear and accessories, which is super exciting.
Electric fuchsia is an amazing neon shade, but it might be quite tricky for interiors maybe. Gemma, what's your take on this?
It is. It's, it's one of those that you want to use a bit in small doses, you could say. I think what we're starting to see is more in theatrical interiors, if you want. So it's really fun for hospitality, for installations, for environments that kind of act as a backdrop for quite scenographic action and get-togethers. In the home, it makes more sense to implement it in accents. We're seeing it, for instance, appearing in small touches as a lacquer, for instance, paired with darker woods, kind of disrupting a little bit the more considered materials and colors. It's fun for touches on decorative cushions. It's really great for stationery, for packaging, print and pattern, of course, on textiles. So really more used to inject a little bit of a vitamin, a little bit of fun into what is the everyday environment.
Let's look at our second key colour, Blue Aura. Gemma, what is your take on Blue Aura?
I love this color. It's a really important one for interiors. It's quite gray, quite dusty. It's a very evocative. You could treat it as a near neutral almost. It's between, a blue and a gray. But it still looks very fresh, very crisp when you pair it with tinted pastels that come from the palette. It's really everything but sugary and candy. It's ideal to speak to that gender inclusivity, transitionality. If we think of, plush toys, kids' environments, nurseries, etc. And this is really one of the key reasons why we treat it as an annual as well for 2026. But it's also a color that looks really beautiful as a glaze on small or larger pieces, outdoor stools we've seen, for instance. Metallized, it becomes much more futuristic. There's the latest Neo SUV model that features this metallized blue aura. Or in Milan, we've seen the recycled aluminium lights and furniture by Hydro, a Norwegian brand, anodized in blue aura, and it was absolutely mesmerizing. And it's actually a color that works particularly well in monomaterial or monocolor applications. It can also be quite, intriguing. We've seen some really beautiful lights and resin furniture by Loritz Gallet, a Swiss designer that we saw in Milan. And it's where really it brings out that luminosity, that interplay of light and shadow that you were mentioning. But also in textiles, plush textiles. It's a color that is cozy, cocooning. There's a beautiful bedroom design by Company, or in velvet, like the furniture by Beaufred, for instance. It has that it invites to relax, to calm. It's quite beautiful within an environment.
I would also add here that Blue Aura came through really strong this season. I don't know if you guys remember when we've had the colour workshop, it was actually a real contender for the colour of the year. Pastels have been dominating the runways for the past seasons. And actually the hashtag Gelato Pastels was one of our top posts on our fashion feed by our editors. I see Blue Aura as a colour with long-term potential to replace greys, and as you mentioned, Gemma, it's really becoming almost a new neutral. It has a neutral character to it. You could use this for your elevated collection essentials, and again, a big focus on our fashion team right now is intelligent simplicity and the need to prolong product lifespans through minimalist, sustainable design. And I think Blue Aura really responds to this need.
Yeah, it has that beautiful tactile quality. It's like almost like also chalky, powdery. It works across a different range of materials and surfaces.
Yeah, I was gonna say for youth as well. I think for those that are kind of like tired of that like relentless TikTok aesthetic, they're actually shifting to try and build their like capsule wardrobes. And youth essentials are like really important for that. So they are looking for those colors with that long term appeal. And I think, like we say, because it's got those like undertones of gray, it really provides that for them. So I think it'll work really nicely to update and refresh those like jersey basics as well.
So our next key colour is Amber Haze, which we chose because of growing interest in ancestral answers and regenerative practices, giving rise to primal and earthy colours. Gemma, I know Amber Haze is an important colour for interiors. How do you see it playing out there?
Yes, I was quite vocal during the workshops about Amber Haze, but because it's such it's again it's about versatility. It really carries forward the conversation that we started with Heritage Mustard last season, and it delves into what are the many dualities that drive 2026. You know, ancestral and contemporary, crafted and industrial, natural and artificial. But it also is kind of permeated with distinctive, nostalgic, retro, but at the same time, disruptively futuristic quality, especially when you apply to refined textiles like the Forma Fantasma installation or painted ceramics in glazes and lacquers. It can also be quite textural. It has a bit of aged appeal almost in the color according to what materials it's worked on, and it speaks to more stones, to minerals. I've seen, for instance, a really beautiful chair by Tojiji, part of Adorno's Animism show in Milan. And really, that idea of this block of globe of amber-like material, which is actually tree resin, was very beautiful with that organic quality, the inclusions, that shift of light and shadow as well, which is really intriguing. And actually, tree resin we're starting to see it as a key material that designers seem to be experimenting with. So really something to keep an eye on for that, material quality, organic quality. And again, also paramount to lighting designs, because we've been talking for some time about amber glass and more that quality of artisanal glass in amber tints. And the recent work actually of Matthew McCormick brings to like that glow that the color can bring, that almost incandescent quality that it has. It can swathe a room into this warm, almost like sun-kissed luminosity. And also at Salone del Mobile, another installation that was quite striking was by Tacchini. They did a beautiful job in dressing a room within their stand in amber haze. And the result was very inviting, that interplay of the different pieces and the walls as well. It became quite a spiritual room, if you want. It was quite infused with that spiritual quality, which was quite welcome and reassuring, especially amidst the frenzy of the show. But think about it also, I don't know, metallized iteration. It's something that could be quite beautiful in jewelry as well. We've been, another thing we debated in the workshop was gold as well. And that idea of antique gold, greenish gold, amber haze really has that quality, and it's something that is coming to the fore very much in, jewelry hardware, details in interiors, kind of warming up, and yet has a bit of a disruptive quality that makes it really intriguing.
Yes, I agree. And I think what was really beautiful to see, actually, I mean, going back to Milan Design Week, I'm not sure if you got to see Roots, the Dutch circular design exhibition, and they had used this color to kind of convey messages of sustainability, circularity, and use of like natural dyes. And there was this project made by insects, and it was this glowing amber haze color that was a project that was all made by insect-made polymers. So it's really great to see. I think this color has got great potential in being used in the messaging of natural dyes, this kind of like ochre, mineral pigments, which we're already seeing validation. So really exciting to see.
But still, it can also be quite luxe as well, no?
Definitely, yeah. Like the use of velvets, satins.
Yeah, and just to mention for youth as well, I mean, I think we all know Gen Z is infatuated with nostalgia. They love anything vintage, they love anything retro. We only had to look at the trending TikTok aesthetics earlier this year with the grandpa core, looking at clothing reminiscent of what our grandparents would wear, to see how easily this amber haze could be like injected into clothing for youth, particularly in like, I'm thinking corduroy fabrications, all of those like, yeah, looks, textures. And I think interestingly at Coachella again, just to go back to it, one of the standout kind of colours that I saw across the board was brown. And I think this would pair really, really nicely to kind of give that retro feel with amber haze. And as well, thinking about like your vintage blues, the retro blue that is one of our annual colours, I think will pair with it perfectly as well.
So, on to another key colour, which we're all very, very excited about, is Jelly Mint, which we chose because of its youthful quality and to embrace all things kawaii, appealing to kidult consumers and the cartoonification of product design. Mia, Jelly Mint speaks to so many categories. What is your take on this colour, and who do you think it will speak to the most?
Yeah, I just love this colour. I think Jelly Mint is so fun, it's so playful, and it almost like instantly just sparks joy, for me anyway. And I think it really aligns with this idea of glimmers that we've been talking about within our Step drivers, those kind of like micro moments of joy. And also, this is just a great gender inclusive shade. It can be used across young men's and young women's, and it's applicable for all product categories. So it's really super versatile. And I love the idea of it being used on kind of sheer and translucent materials to really emphasize that kind of like jelly-like quality to it. And you can see it demonstrated on these trainer covers here. And I think also interestingly, this colour has kind of like a sweet, almost synthetic feel to it, which can be quite nostalgic, and it appeals to that like kidult consumer as well. But then at the same time, depending on the usage, it can also look quite futuristic almost and slightly like AI driven. We're seeing a lot of these kind of like candy pastel hues coming through within AI imagery. And it also has that kind of like calming and serene quality at the same time. So yeah, it just shows how versatile this color can really be.
I've actually seen recently the Studio Pepe, which is a directional design studio from Milan. They designed retail space for footwear and an apparel brand. And the space is clad in metal, in brushed steel, so very, industrial, futuristic. But all the shelving for exhibiting the product are coated in jelly mint lacquer gloss, and the result is absolutely beautiful. It sets off the product, it interacts, it semi-reflects into the metal. It's really quite intriguing as an interplay, very much speaking to what you were saying, that AI inspired challenging perception kind of interior. But at the same time, I've seen it in like a whole bathroom clad in jelly mint, and there's something really inviting and calming about it. And the pairing of the tiles, the grouting, the tinted fixtures and fittings, as well as the towels and the bathroom linens. There was something really inviting, which is quite key for hospitality, thinking also of wellness spaces. It's very Instagram friendly in a way, or TikTok friendly, but at the same time, it's a space where you want to spend time in. There's something quite, inviting for a wellness ritual. Not in terms of light in the mirror, for sure, but for the ritual, for being, drenched into this jelly mint light, it's quite, it's quite surreal and soothing at the same time.
It's almost like a palate refresher, right? So
Yeah.
I know that it was really key for Active. I know that Yvonne's not on this call, but when we had the workshop, that Active was a huge fan of this, and really I can imagine it being used in gender inclusive clothing for Active, for sneakers, for accessories. But also, I remember Beauty, Megan Bang, she was a key advocate for this as well. So possibly we'll be seeing a lot of kind of this jelly mint hairs coming across. And again, like this really exciting, nails, youthful
Nails,
like
eyeshadow, everything.
eyeshadows, right? With a bit of like shimmer possibly. So,
And consumer tech, think all this, like for instance, headphones,
yeah.
accessories, and appliances. We're starting to see that coming through in kitchen appliances, which is quite
Yeah.
interesting. It's kind of an evolution of that softer, more considered matcha green, a bit more daring, a bit more smaller scale, assertive kind of playfulness, kidult playfulness, which is what you were mentioning.
And now, and finally, our color of the year we reveal is transformative teal. We are super excited to reveal this color to you all. We chose transformative teal because it aligns with the eco accountability that will be increasingly demanded by our consumers. It is a fluid fusion of blue and green that recognizes the diversity of nature and a planet first mindset. This blue-green shade is cooling, calming, and restorative, with a transformative and regenerative character, inspired by redirecting our efforts to find collective and novel solutions for our planet. It also evokes the overview effect, which is coined by the space philosopher Frank White, which expresses the life-changing experience of witnessing our home planet from space. So it's a perfect color to include in your spring, summer, and autumn winter palettes. It has a true trans-seasonal quality, so you can explore some very interesting color combinations, which you'll be able to see in our color combinations report, which is out now on our website. Gemma, for interiors, transformative teal, like what do you envisage this color being used in combinations with? What other key colors that you see, or even colors from our overall palette for Spring Summer 26?
I really love the multifaceted quality of transformative teal because, a teal is also a classic color. You can see it playing really well into those retro narratives. You see it with walnuts, with brass, clay, really elevating, conveying a bit of a premium look and feel to a space or to a product. Even in lacquered finishes or in passementry, really beautiful as a trimming or fringing on details. There's something really relatable about the richness of this steel. But then, you can immediately twist its perception when you play with the metallization or, otherworldly iridescence as well, really emphasizing that nocturnal quality that transformative teal can have and really exaggerate the changing aspect that it can have. This is amazing for automotive, for accessories. We're starting seeing it come through as almost like a nocturnal pearlescence, very layered on blues, and you perceive it only when you look at the surface under a certain angle, that kind of barely there iridescence, but really very layered. There's many depth to it, and it's absolutely mesmerizing. It's quite show-stopping, actually. And then we're also you can play with it with glow-in-the-dark iterations, pairing it with those the yellows or giving to it that kind of lit from within aspect that, again, uh, brings to life that nocturnal, that nighttime quality that it has, and I think it's really intriguing. It's really versatile, and I see it remaining relevant for maybe more season than just 2026. It can, it has yeah, that multifaceted aspect can work across so many categories, large, small, and market levels.
I remember, Mia, from youth research, transformative teal was used very heavily together with electric fuchsia, which created this almost that like retro nostalgic combinations. What's your take on transformative teal?
Yeah, I think that's what's quite exciting about it. It can be used in lots of different ways, and I loved it with that electric fuchsia. It almost feels like future nostalgia. Almost, it was kind of like there was a lot of this kind of like 90s inspired imagery that had the fuchsia and then the dark subversive kind of teal colors in it as well. But then at the same time, I think you could really apply it to those like true nostalgia palettes as well, with the kind of amber haze, with the kind of blues. I think it would work really beautifully. So yeah, I'm excited about all the different ways we can use this color.
Thank you for Mia and Gemma. And we're really excited for this spring summer 26 key colors and color of the year. To the live part of our webinar, and we'd like to say we're so sorry we're having technical issues. It's always in our most needed time that tech fails us. So if anyone missed anything, this is recorded and the recording will be sent out to everyone's emails. And also it will be live on our website in next week's. So welcome. Hi, Gemma. Hi, Mia.
Hey.
Hello. So thank you for everyone sending in the questions on your registration process. We've had a really thorough look. We've had lots of great questions, and actually we kind of picked up, there was lots on youth, interiors, and picked up like kind of the key ones. And maybe I could start with Gemma, because there was lots of questions on interiors and how there were questions on how will these colors work in interiors, and also are these also the same key colors for interiors? Gemma, I mean, whilst we're on the topic of interiors, what has been your take on palette longevity as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great points. First of all, yes, when we discuss the key colors as part of the workshop, we actually make sure that they are relevant to all the different industries that are involved in the workshop. So yes, you see here youth, fashion, menswear, womenswear, kids, but also footwear and accessories, activewear, consumer tech, beauty, and of course interior. So those 5 are definitely relevant and called out as key for us as well, in different ways. As we discussed, you saw in the recording, some of them can be used in different ways or different layerings and percentages almost in the way that we can apply them within our industry. Then there's also an additional color that actually we have added for interiors, an industry specific one that we do every season, which is robust red. And the name already really speaks super well of that long-term quality of the color. It's this robustness. It's a key aspect. It really speaks to that growing importance of robust heirlooms, of longevity, as a key area of investment into the upcoming seasons. It's a color it's a red that has a lightly dusted quality that makes it quite timeless. It works really well with the classics, with the woods, but also in utilitarian context. I've seen it applied on radiators, for instance, and it was really refreshing way to see how it can give a twist and an update, a mundane, if you want, an element within a home. It works really beautifully also on natural dyed textiles. And when you work it instead in more glossy finishes, it premiumizes. It really adds this premium quality to the product in these sheeny, glossy finishes. I've seen it in anodized iterations on aluminium furniture, and it's a really interesting dichotomy of that red that elevates the piece and then the really quite industrial look of the material. And to your point around longevity, that idea of designing with longevity in mind, it's definitely something that impacts the way that we work with color in our workshops as well. It is more responsible approach to color we've been taking on in recent years. So for instance, with the colors that are annual, so the idea really calling out clearly the ones that will remain for that year, for 2 seasons, if not more, because some of them recur, but also the clear identification of those long-term core colors that it's all resonating really well with our clients. And you know, it's really all driven by the fact that no one needs newness for newness sake. And the way that we apply it is really carrying over 30 to 40% of our palette season on season, at least, to ensure that continuity, to streamline the process for you, for our audience, in understanding how the color can evolve, can take on different personalities across the season, across the different palettes. And this is the way that our clients work as well. So it's really important to mirror that. And we are encouraging a longevity-driven design approach at all levels of the markets in everything that we do in all of our forecasts. So the idea of designing the pieces that can be passed on, that can suit different interior styles. So color that can be transversal is really, really important in this respect. Then, of course, some areas need a seasonal update. That's why we call out the seasonal elements that change every time. But in general, at least speaking for interiors, color are quite slower than fashion in many areas. So we tend to approach the color on more of an annual basis with more the injections of the seasonal, of the accents that work better for smaller areas like decor, like textiles, and so on.
Yeah, I think we've had lots of questions on that topic, like sustainability, longevity, long-term colors, and also we did have questions on color evolution. So I think one of the questions that came through was, how will certain color groups, blues, green, pinks, yellows, evolve over the next 2 years? So, I mean, with this, we have been working on our color evolution report that came out at the same time or just after our global color forecast. And each season, we actually using Color Rose analysis tools by hue, lightness, and chroma, we plot the entire season's palette. You'll see it on Miro and also on the Color Rose website, by hue distribution to really illustrate like the evolution of color, like where is color going. Like some seasons we'll see that is much lighter, much darker. We are heavier on the pastel side. So do take a look. It is an amazing tool that we use. And actually from that, we did discover that in our SS26 palette, the previous focus of fresh green shifts to blues and like oceanic blue toned green, so we can really see it sitting there, which is also, you know, it's highlighted by our 2026 color of the year transformative teal and our key color jelly mint. They're both kind of like blue toned greens, and if clients wanted to flex our palettes and our key colors based on their brand identity, markets, they can really confidently use the Color Rose 9-segment tool. You know, they can experiment with the hues, lightness, and chroma and discover the exact shade for their unique proposition. So another question that came out was, how can color exhale hope and reduce stress? Gemma, I know that this has already been a big discussion with us during our color workshops. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I mean, the healing power of color, it's something that we discuss in a number of seasons. That was one of the key conversation in the workshop. And I remember, yeah, this being a highlight with me as well in youth. What do pastels mean and how can we update them? Where is the how can we add meaning to them? And definitely that healing, that soothing element, it's very important. It's been driving what we're tracking as a progressive shift towards more mineral pastels, towards more reassuring neutrals, and of course restorative darks. So that's also a really important direction. This is definitely important for interiors. If you think, you know, hospitality, healthcare, wellness spaces, retail, where, you know, the boundaries keep blurring more and more. But also, it's really important when we think about passion of beauty and activewear, where what is being worn impacts so much the feeling, the mood, the performance. In this optic, you know, teens love minerals like quartz, like jade, like amethyst, the grayish warmth of porcelain, or the barely there glow of yellow. They're all very important. And especially, you know, to bring back the conversation to Milan Design Week, where we just came back, that emotional connection, healing, well-being were such recurring conversations, and colors were mirroring that. Such a big focus on natural neutrals, on mineral pastels, and nuanced neutrals, and a lot of immersive darkness as well. And overall, I think something that we're looking at, if we look at 2026 and our drivers, it's really important to underline a multi-sensoriality driven approach to design, really growing intertwined to that healing aspect. It's something that, you know, we start noting a lot, using color, but also light to impact the mood, the perception of a certain room, of a certain material as well, complementing that with tactility, like hyperhaptic surface work. We're seeing some incredible iterations in activewear as well with the surface work, impacting the performance, but also adding that kind of barely there pattern. And there was an element of, you know, restorative softness to it as well. Really beautiful.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if we go back to Milan Design Week, that, you know, if we talk about reducing stress and bringing hope, joy and joyfulness was everywhere expressed. I mean, I think we can confidently say that color played a huge part in creating an atmosphere of hope and wonder. And, you know, there was the usages of these like glowing neons and tinted pastels and these psychedelic brights that brought like a much needed escapism to a much through like an awe-inspiring shades during like a polarized time. I mean, next question was about darks actually, and this was, how will dark colors be incorporated in spring summer? I think it's a great question. I was on a client call a few weeks ago and they had the exact same question. So I mean, I'll touch on it quickly, and maybe Mia, you can touch on it as well, that, you know, for spring, summer, like for these new darks that we have in our palette in SS26, and as well as on our annual palette, they are very transseasonal. We've got these really beautiful dark hues of greens and blues and purples that we can use together in combination. So if we take a look at our color combinations report that's live out on our website, you can really see like our darks, such as transformative teal, working wonderfully with neutrals like classic caramel, but as well as electric fuchsia. So darks can be super transseasonal. It can be that kind of like classic timeless. It's a fluid, it allows fluid dressing. So whether you are going from the office to the gym, like still keeping that kind of like classic timeless look. So, I mean, Mia, I think there was actually a question about kids and tweens, and maybe you can take this on. And it says, how, with dark colors increasing, how does this impact kids and tweens palettes?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I feel like there's a lot of kind of kids wear brands that might be a little bit wary of having such like a dark heavy palette for spring summer, but they are still really, really important, particularly when you look at shades like transformative teal, which has that really calming and also restorative feel. And then I think as well mystic purple and that cherry lacquer, which almost encapsulates a sense of mystery and self-empowerment, are again very important for the kids wear market. But I think what is key here is getting that balance of your colors right. So like you said, the application of those shades as well, and making sure that you've got all of those kind of foundational neutral shades, particularly where there's more of a focus on like natural dyes and the need for longevity within kids wear. And you can pair those back really nicely with those darker shades as well. And then think about those lovely jellied brights that we've got. They can make for really interesting color combinations when they're paired with the new darks. And then if you wanted to go down the kind of nostalgic retro route, think about your amber haze with your dark browns. I think that can work so beautifully for kids wear and tweens as well. And another option is using those darker shades within your prints and graphics rather than adopting kind of head to toe look. It's more of a kind of softer way to introduce darks for the younger market, I think.
Definitely. So I think that we are at the end. We are waiting for questions. If anyone had any other questions, please do send it across. Otherwise, I believe this is our time. And thank you so much for everyone joining. Thank you, Gemma. And thank you, Mia. And we're so sorry about the technical issues, but there will be a recording that will be sent out on emails. So until next time, we look very much forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.